Grand Rising. This is the Birth Landed Out channel. Back again to a long hiatus. Alright, let's go. What we have here is a snippet from negotiating table of Netanyahu and Anthony Blinken. Alright, but this is not what it's about. This is about what Hamas wants to get to the negotiating table. Go ahead and, release the hostages. Let's take some of the prisoners from Israel and make a stance of not torturing and genocidal effects of Rafah. All right, and no babies dying in the street. Okay, so here we go. And maybe the colleges all over the world finally standing down. All right, colleges stand down. Here we go.
Ross, Israel has presented a proposal. The US describes it, and the UK as being extremely generous. When do we expect the Hamas response?
Well, we are hearing the Hamas response may come as soon as later today. As you were saying, Israel says that they're not going to join those talks that have been going on, mediated by countries including the US, Egypt, Qatar, and others, until they get that response and get time to look over it. As you were saying, the US and others, it described the Israeli proposal, the latest one, as, quote, extremely generous. They're saying it provides for the safe passage, potentially, of people to move back to the north of Gaza without being inspected by Israeli troops. There's possible some conversation around the withdrawal of Israeli troops from certain parts of Gaza. There's a lot, though, we still don't know about how long this ceasefire might last, particularly what might be involved in terms of the numbers of Israeli hostages that might be released, the numbers of Palestinian prisoners who might be exchanged in turn. And we just don't know how Hamas is going to respond. Either side has accused the other of never acting in good faith here. So there's no goodwill really between them at this point, and they're passing notes between mediators to even communicate with each other. That said, there is an enormous amount of pressure coming from the US, from Europe, but also on Hamas, from Qatar, Egypt and others, to get to the table and find a way to get a ceasefire, because the imperative really is to get that truce to avoid Israel going into Rafah, to invade Rafah in the south of Gaza.
Yeah, and that is something that, again, Netanyahu has insisted he will and wants to do, and that they will eventually do. They need to do that in order to bring this to a close, as Israel would see it. Given what we've been hearing from Netanyahu, reiterating that, would a ceasefire last? How tangible would it be?
Well, that is always the risk, that a ceasefire only lasts a week or two and then collapses again, or that Israel will only agree to a short-term ceasefire. Because as you were saying, Benjamin Netanyahu has been adamant about this, that Israel will still need to do more in Gaza to eradicate Hamas. And he says that's the ultimate goal, is to deal with Hamas. And so any ceasefire is going to be extremely fragile, even if it does happen. And Israel's unlikely to agree to an extent. When, of course, the hope of the others, the US, Europe and others, is that once you get a ceasefire, you can try and roll it over. It's in place, and then you just try and get it extended. And the longer that goes on, the more you stave off Israel going into Rafah. But it's really clear that Benjamin Netanyahu is under extreme pressure at home, politically from the right and so on, to continue against Hamas. He's got to factor that in. And for all his comments right now, there's no indication that he's going to back down on his plans for Rafah.